bonjour à vous, membres de Baseball Québec. Je veux simplement vous dire que Houston est un fier partenaire des manches supplémentaires qui va donner un coup de pouce à tous les bénévoles pour partir l'année 2021 en feu.
Bonsoir tout le monde, ça me fait plaisir de vous retrouver ce soir. J'espère pour ceux qui ont été avec nous hier soir que vous avez apprécié la présentation sur le baseball 5 avec nos amis français. Et j'espère que ça vous a ouvert les yeux sur une nouvelle discipline qui pourrait justement faire son entrée au Québec dans les prochaines années. Je me présente, André Lachance, je suis de Baseball Canada et ça me fait plaisir d'être de nouveau votre animateur ce soir pour une autre belle discussion qu'on aura avec Matt, que je vais vous présenter dans quelques instants. Évidemment, comme vous avez été informé, la présentation de ce soir, la conversation de ce soir sera en anglais. Donc, comme je vous disais, je vais juste rapidement partager mon écran ici. Bougez pas 2 secondes pour me permettre justement de vous présenter notre conférencier de ce soir. J'arrive. Alors, notre conférencier de ce soir, Matt Keita. Matt qui est gestionnaire du développement et des initiatives pour la jeunesse au sein des Indians de Cleveland. Donc, on est très chanceux de l'avoir. Je vais vous expliquer tantôt pourquoi que je trouve qu'on est très chanceux de l'avoir. Vous savez peut-être pas, mais l'organisation des Indians de Cleveland est peut-être la plus dynamique en termes de développement de l'athlète aux États-Unis au sein de l'ensemble des organisations de baseball professionnelles. Donc, ça va nous permettre justement d'avoir une belle conversation avec Matt. Alors, à partir de ce moment-ci, je vais changer de tiroir dans ma tête. On va aller à l'anglais et on va souhaiter la bienvenue à Matt. Matt, I was just finished concluding my French section. I hope you're not too lost so far with the introduction video, but I'm sure you've seen all the passion behind those people in Quebec about baseball. I was just saying, but before I say that, I'm going to make a promise to you tonight that we will not talk about politics. I promise we will not do that.
Okay, good.
Okay,
all right, good. It would not be a fun.
Yeah.
We'd put some people to sleep. So
yeah. So I was just saying to people that the reason why we reached out to you is that like the Indians are known to be one of the leading organizations among all MLB teams in the US and in Canada, because we have a team in Canada. So regarding athlete development programs in the communities, etc. So really privileged to have you tonight. I know you and I had some conversation in the past also, so it's not the first time we have a discussion, and I hope people will enjoy tonight's presentation. So officially welcome to what we call in French here the extra inning. So every evening this week, we're going to have different presenters from different groups, whether it's baseball people or even have hockey, Sweden coming. We have the French Soccer Federation. We have the French Baseball Federation. We have Japan Baseball as well. So and you're one of the speakers during this week on this Tuesday night. So officially welcome, Matt, to tonight's session.
Well, I'm thanks for having me. Definitely honored after hearing that lineup. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the conversation. Obviously, we've had some great ones over the years, and you've been a huge part of just how I kind of view my role in growing the game. So thank you for that.
So let's start about talking about yourself a little bit. Like, tell us a little bit about yourself, like how you got to where you are right now, your baseball background. Like, let's start with to explain people at home like who you are and what exactly you do with the Indians.
Yeah, for sure. So I am a native of Cleveland, Ohio, and so grew up here. Baseball was my true love. And, in school growing up, when they asked you what you wanted to be, I always raised my hand and said I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. And, that answer never changed all the way through college. And so, I was fortunate to continue playing. I received a baseball scholarship to play at Vanderbilt University, and then was drafted after my junior year by the Arizona Diamondbacks, and started my, professional career. That lasted 14 years, and 4 of those years, I got to kind of achieve that that dream and goal of you know, making the big leagues, and had some unbelievable experiences. And so, as we all know, can't wear the uniform forever. And so 2012 was my last season playing. I finished up in AAA with the Rangers in Round Rock, Texas, which you know, which was my home for 10 years. I met my wife there, and that was kind of home base while you played. And you know, I kind of played at, you know, I bounced around a little bit and got to see the map. You know, and right after retiring, you know, I transitioned into the front office for the AAA team, the Round Rock Express, and oversaw, you know, their baseball outreach, and really did a lot of everything. Minor league baseball, you know, even though my goal was, you know, baseball outreach, and, you know, similar to what I'm doing here with the Indians, you know, minor league baseball, you're doing a little bit of everything. So for a first kind of real job, right from playing, it was great. You know, just learning about the business side, and kind of getting to use some of the skills that I learned in college. And so I was selling tickets, suites, sponsorships, and running camps. And so really just a year into it, you know, that's when kind of social media, I didn't have a Twitter, I didn't have LinkedIn while I was playing. You know, Facebook was really the only thing, you know, that I had. And so everyone was telling me, you got to get on LinkedIn, you got to have a Twitter. And so the way that I got connected here in Cleveland, so my wife is from Texas, and so coming back to Cleveland wasn't ever part of the plan. I think everyone knows weather-wise, not a great sell to a Texas girl. And so I had just, you know, when I retired, you know, the routines from playing, everything was structured for you, and I knew, you know, my routines and training. And so, you know, you hear the story a lot when athletes retire, just finding something to continue to, you know, motivate and drive you. And so for me, you know, I thought right away that, I could come home and get my workouts in, you know, and then I have 2 kids. I have twins, a boy and a girl. And I quickly found that coming home after a long day of work and then trying to get in your workout. So I quickly became an early riser. And so one morning I was literally just setting up my LinkedIn, and I remember it was 4 o'clock in Texas time, and I was going through LinkedIn. And so Kevin Cash, the manager of the Rays, a good friend of mine, we played together our last couple of years, really got to know each other, our families. He was the bullpen coach for the Indians at the time. And so I'm going on my LinkedIn and I see Mark Shapiro. So obviously there's a little connection with at least Canada and Blue Jays. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to, this is how you do this LinkedIn thing. I'm just going to send a note to Mark. And really it was just a dig on Kevin Cash because he's horrible at returning texts and phone calls. And so I just sent literally like a 5-line, little message over LinkedIn to Mark Shapiro, just saying, hey, tell Kevin Cash, tell his personal assistant to, return my calls. And then a couple lines where I just, even though I didn't live in Cleveland, I'm still a diehard Clevelander and an Indians fan, even though I never got to play for the Indians. And so I just, complimented him. Tito Francono, they just recently hired. So, a big fan of him. And so that was it. And literally like 5 minutes later, I got a reply. And it was, again, kind of quick 3-liner. Yeah, I'll tell Kevin. We got high expectations for Tito. And then the last line was, let me know if or when you want to come back home and work. And so I remember sitting there for a good 5-10 minutes, just rereading that. Like, did he just kind of, throw that out there? So, long story short, we, connected 2 or 3 calls about just youth baseball. Caden, his son, was fresh, who I think just announced he's going to Princeton, to play baseball, which is awesome. So he was thick into like the landscape of youth baseball. And so we had some great conversations. And then next thing you know, he was offering a position to really come run youth baseball development for the Indians. And and essentially, grow the game of baseball. I think I love the video and seeing the passion. I don't, even though I could kind of know what they were saying. I took Spanish in high school, but I didn't have to, because I knew by the sounds of their voices and the smiles on their faces that that's what this game is all about. And so to be able to come back home to Cleveland, where my big league dreams started, has been awesome. So it's been 7 years now, and I feel very fortunate to work for an organization who, one, is invested in youth baseball. Because I think when you look across the 30 teams, I think it all varies, where there's very few that actually house it in-house, and a lot of them are usually kind of contracting out to a third party to just either run some of their camps, et cetera. And so to be able to kind of again work for an owner who in Paul Dolan and the Dolans, who truly are passionate about growing the game. And then, as you mentioned, the kind of the other thing that attracted moving the family from Texas back to Cleveland was just how close youth baseball is with with player development and baseball operations. So to still continue to be able to learn from, obviously, a player development system that has really, when you look across professional teams, really modeling after what the Indians had kind of started. And so it's been great for me, because just being fresh from playing, to continue to just learn and grow, and then again come back and kind of grow the game in the city where you grew up in. So it's been awesome.
That's a quite an amazing journey that you've had, and it's a good bridge to my next question, Matt. Is like I mentioned in my introduction, like the successes that the Indians have had with player development and community involvement and youth development and so on and so forth. If I would ask you to describe or explain to people watching tonight, what are the guiding principles that the organization or you as a leader has towards player development or youth development? What would you say are the guiding principles that makes the current success of the Indians on that part of the business?
Yeah, I think twofold. As an organization as a whole, when you look at our mission and purpose, it really is to unite and inspire our city with the power of team. So team is a huge concept. And when you look at our beliefs, it's all about people, collaboration, learning, and excellence. And there's definitely a lot of what I think Mark Shapiro on the player development side, really grew, and obviously he's kind of bringing some of that, over to the Blue Jays. But that was the biggest thing I took from Mark. It's all about people and process. And so, from a player development, youth development, that's a big task. And in that world, there's so many different approaches. And I think what has made the Indians so successful, and really, we just mirror a lot of the same philosophies and principles, is taking a holistic approach towards that development. So essentially, I know there's so many different models now, but taking the physical part of sport, the fundamental side and the mental side, blending those together, and having that guide everything you do, from programming around just developing skill and developing players and people. So that certainly has been the best part of what I get to do, is how aligned we are, so that when there are times when we're collaborating, and whether or not it's coaching clinics or similar events like this, everyone's speaking the same language, and I think that's ultimately how you're able to have some success in developing not only great baseball players, but great people.
And some of the keywords that highly resonate with me, you talk about collaboration, you talk about, I took some notes here, alignment. I know like some organization that I've seen work with, they have the tendency to work in silos versus working together. So that resonates a lot with me. I know you're a curious guy because we've exchanged all kinds of books idea and reading things that we've done in the past. So I like the learning part of it also. I think as an organization, being able to claim that we can learn in every situation we're in, I think it's kind of important. And I really like also the holistic approach that you've mentioned as well, because you know at the end of the day we need to develop good baseball player, but also good people, right? Because like we tend to forget sometimes that you know it's only a certain percentage of athletes that will become baseball players, but some others will transition into other things in life. And if they can claim that baseball has helped them to be successful in another profession, I think we've accomplished our goals. Would you agree with that?
For sure. You know, when you look at community impact, and you know, we kind of have the little mission, you know, specifically to those departments, but you know, it's using baseball, you know, to transform lives. And just as you said, it's you know, sport, baseball is just a tool to, you know, develop better people. And I think that's why when you see, you know, there's a lot of businesses who actually want to target former athletes, because they understand the importance of, you know, setting goals and you know, then putting a process towards achieving those goals. And then obviously, you know, working as part of a team for a bigger goal, and then and adversity and resilience and grit and all those, you know, great attributes that I don't care what you're doing, you know, lead to, you know, just having success. And so, that's always, I think that's always at the forefront of, certainly we want to have the story to say, hey, we had someone come up with in one of our programs or something that we've, you know, connected to, and you know, again, have my story to say, you know, I had a goal of becoming a big leaguer, and I was able to, you know, become a big leaguer. We know those chances, you know, are so slim. But again, that's not the driving force in everything we do.
And for those of you watching tonight, like you're invited tomorrow night also, and you'll be blown away by what the French Soccer Football Federation will share with every one of you tomorrow night about life skills development that are part of their programs that they've put together. So highly invited to attend tomorrow. So you mentioned about programming, about programs that are being offered by your organization. Can you let us know a little bit more about what type of programs that are being offered, what it is all about, and how it's delivered, and go a little bit deeper in that programming topic?
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, we essentially have, or at least how it started when I started out, you know, Indians Youth Baseball was kind of separate from community impact. And then really the past couple of years, I think when Mark kind of transitioned out, we kind of just combined the two, where initially when I came on board, you know, our focus was really kind of the outer ring, the suburbs, and focusing on, you know, just running camps, development opportunities throughout the summer. So 5-day camps, you know, full day, and really targeting that 6 to 14 age range. You know, and then as we've grown over the years, you know, on the community impact side, when you look at, you know, the inner city and city of Cleveland, you know, I mentioned having a great owner who is committed to growing the game. For the past 20 years, you know, on the community impact side, we've just basically funded to provide access and opportunity, which, you know, again, is what we want to do. And so, you know, in the last couple of years, in just looking at our strategic plan and looking at where we want to go, you know, we still have our focus on the suburbs and our camps, which have, you know, which have been great, and they're kind of, you know, rock solid. But we're really transitioning and shifting our approach in how we impact that experience in the inner city. So, traditionally it's just been funding, but we know that, we can have a deeper impact in, having a little more hand in some of, some of the development initiatives. And so, right out the bat in those discussions, they've been great where, okay, can we do some camps? And we know, in camps, I'm the mindset of, because it's not a revenue generator, like we cap it off. And so it's not like, some of them where I want 200 kids because it's paying, it's the bottom line, where I want it to be a really rich experience. So, the downside of that is you can only impact so many kids doing that. So as we've had those discussions, again, my learnings from talking, with you, and then just being a lifelong learner and seeing how all these, other countries are approaching development, and then how can we scale our impact? For me, coach development is the best player development. And I certainly know that, in the last couple of years, that's how the Indians player development is really approaching it. And I think you're seeing that across the industries too, and how, how much more prevalent that is. And so, that's the approach that we took and how we can, really scale, because we obviously know a coach can impact so many lives. And so if we can kind of, take that focus, we figured, that's where we thought we can have the most impact. So, we put a lot of investment in kind of creating the Indians way to coaching excellence, which really was, again, a collaboration of our partnership with the Positive Coaching Alliance, obviously internally with player development and some of their, people that they're connected with. And then, looking around, there's not a whole lot of programs, at least in the States. And so, I came across an individual named Mark Bennett out of the UK. Mark has his system called Performance Development Systems. And so just touch base with Mark and hear a little bit more about how he approaches, coach development and mentorship. And so, we've collaborated with Mark the last 3 years in helping to kind of, build the Indians way to coaching excellence and roll it out to, our, the inner city recreation coaches, as well as, we support high school baseball and softball in the city of Cleveland, again, for the last 20 plus years. And so, the last 2 years, they've kind of gone through the Indians way to coaching excellence. And, the feedback's been great. And then, additionally, as we talked, I think it's been 4 or 5 years now, we've rolled out RallyCap as that initiation level program. I think I don't probably have to talk to anyone and to understand, the challenges of 5 to 8 regular, normal, baseball and that experience. And so when I saw that, I knew it was a great program, and I kind of had it on the back burner until, my son and daughter, it was their first year playing organized sport or organized baseball. I was so conservative. I held them out at 3, 4, and 5. And so it was, I think they were 7. So, I mean, my wife was just like, are you serious? Like, we're not going to sign them up for T-ball. And I'm like, no, I can't do it. So again, we signed them up, and I knew what the experience was going to be, right, in that coach pitch year. So I knew I had RallyCap and our conversations ready to go at least the next year, the couple years here. So I went to the commissioner of the league where we, just signed up in our town. And I said, listen, I have this program, kind of gave him an outline. Here's what it is. What do you think? And this was, registrations were already done. This was like last minute. I just threw it by him. And, this guy was awesome. He said, yeah. So I got to really trial RallyCap within my local league. And then, before really rolling it out with, I think right now we had 6 partners with RallyCap. And then as we've transitioned, they've kind of said, hey, let's hold growing it in the suburbs and let's get it into the inner city. So again, we're happy that we're going to expand it, but we've had some amazing feedback with just obviously the structure of the program, the goals of the program, and then and then the experience. And I know you had them, and we've talked about them. There certainly was the some of the negative feedback, or the when do we get to play a game, and some of the things that you've heard. So there was some bumps and a lot of conversations and all that, but we're really happy. We're really happy with that. With that program. So those are really our main programs. And then our discussions right now, the RBI program for Major League Baseball, is something that we're looking to take in-house. Again, that was something that we contracted out. So we're really excited about the future and being a little more hands-on with, inner city baseball and softball, and programming.
So it probably came as a surprise for lots of people watching tonight, saying, like, there's Rally Cap in Cleveland? Yeah, there is Rally Cap in Cleveland. Like, I knew about it. That's not something I openly shared, but yeah, there is Rally Cap in Cleveland, and there's Rally Cap in other parts of the world also. So that's we still think it's a great program here. Something that really highly resonated with me was the importance you put on coach development that directly impact athlete development. I think the people at Baseball Québec will be really, really happy to hear you say that, because that's their message as well. And let me just switch quickly to French, juste pour vous expliquer quand il mentionne le mot inner cities. En français, c'est davantage les milieux en milieu urbain un peu plus défavorisé. Donc, si vous allez dans les plus grandes villes, donc au Québec, peut-être à Montréal, dans les quartiers un peu plus défavorisés, où on retrouve souvent ce qu'on appelle chez nous des nouveaux Québécois, des nouveaux Canadiens, qui se retrouvent là souvent dans des conditions socio-économiques un petit peu plus difficiles. Et ce que Matt racontait, c'est qu'eux placent beaucoup d'emphase sur cette clientèle-là pour les aider justement à pouvoir s'inscrire, à se procurer l'équipement, etc. So I was just explaining quickly what you meant by inner cities. That's something we use a little bit in the English part of the country, but a little bit less in Quebec. So I just wanted to make it clear. So
probably fair. It's probably fair, Andre, to like clarify. I mean, really underserved is where, because there's inner city Cleveland, but when you look around greater Cleveland, right, surrounding communities, there's a lot of underserved, communities and families. So, I think that's really, the main goal, and really, again, where we're looking to grow and expand.
Exactly. That's exactly what I quickly said in French also. So you mentioned that learning for you is important. You're a lifelong learner. Like, what would you say would be your most influencers, like the reading you've done or the organization that you admire, that you took some information from, that built a little bit how you see things, whether it's athlete development, player development, or youth development?
Ooh, I don't know if we have enough time left in this session. I think I always go back to, some former coaches, and certainly, my parents who, you talk about guiding principles, really kind of set the foundation. And then, I've had unbelievable coaches, ones that are great technical coaches, ones that are great leaders and motivators, and then books, podcasts have been, when you think about, professional development, the book that I always say is, maybe the top 3 list for coaches for me that I've read is Chip and Dan Heath's book called Switch. So how to change when change is hard. And so I just love all their books because they have these really catchy frameworks and really you can just, go through and plug in and those, their books have been, have been great. And Switch, I think, is mandatory reading for coaches, because the reality is we're all trying to influence, whether or not it's kind of our way or we're guiding a player to either, influence and change something mechanically, et cetera. And so, having those little frameworks to guide you from that book have been huge, huge for me. And then, I think internally we have a great group of people to where I think just connecting and having conversations and talking about different things are kind of easy, low-hanging fruit to just improve and develop. And podcasts, Tim Ferriss, who's kind of just the self-experimenter. I think I just love how he kind of dissects his guests and kind of wants to know what's at the heart of their success. And so, whether or not it's not specific to baseball or even development, again, you mentioned you start to see a lot of themes in successful people that I think apply, on the baseball side. So yeah,
I think you mentioned something important, to be open-minded to other field, right? Because sometimes like we say, well, I got to read all the baseball books, but maybe there's good things we can learn from other fields, whether it's business or military or music, that we could steal ideas from, tweak them a little bit and make it our own and run with it. So that's a good takeaway there.
Yeah, for sure. And then, diving into the world of like skill acquisition, and it's thick. And so it's been nice. It's almost like kind of going back to school and taking courses. And, for me, I think information and knowledge is so important. And then, I think then the challenge becomes as a coach is to, take that information and somehow present it to your team and to your players, and either Sesame Street simple it a little bit or break it down and simplify so that they can understand it. So yeah, it's been a big part of still getting up at 4 a.m. and learning.
Yeah. And you mentioned two keywords that have a whole different meanings in these crazy times we're in right now. You mentioned change, adaptability. So those like if those two words are not important now, they'll never be important. Like if you look at what we're going through right now, and I have a sub question about that is what was the impact on COVID on all your programming? Like, is there any key learnings, maybe that any takeaways that emerge from this pandemic?
Yeah, so we unfortunately had to cancel all of our programming. We made the early call. I think you deal with refunds and different processes, and so it was a tough summer for me personally. Being I'm on the field still. I think the challenge of my role is I'm a department of one, and so as much as I want to grow, this game, I think I've found times where I've bitten off a little more, than I can chew, and so kind of keeping it simple. So it was tough for me, but then you looked at a lot of the recreational city canceled programmings, but when you see the side of, they call it travel baseball here, select, I don't like the word elite, but that side of it, if you would have looked around and come to games, you wouldn't have thought you would have thought it was a normal summer. So fortunately, for our kids, they had the experience to play. And so, I was able to kind of sit in a lawn chair and watch, because we had to kind of find a team for my summer. My daughter was already kind of playing that travel baseball, and I was going to hold my son out for another year, because I know it, being 12 and up, it's going to get crazy. And really on the recreational level, there's not many opportunities anymore. And so he found a team, and so I got to kind of, play dad and watch a little bit, which was great. I enjoyed it. And I think learnings, I think it's engagement and and communication and being able to, adapt, as you said, and then obviously have that resilience. I think, relating that a little bit from just, being so rigid on this is the way, when you look at a goal or a mission, well, there's a lot of different ways and avenues, and I think, not so much to a fault, but I like processes. I like things to go, kind of how planned originally. And so that was something where, even with RallyCap initially, it was like, nope, you have to do it this way. And, you get the feedback from the leagues, and I'm like, well, no, that's not how the program is. So, I learned from that, hey, okay, you listen. Yeah, that's not so bad, right? You're not completely changing the program. You're still accomplishing those goals. So great. And then the same thing here. So, we pivoted, it's one of the things where we still lack a little bit in having, we don't have our own social media page. It's kind of, I think that's the challenge of being part of like the Indians organization. And, we don't have our own little Facebook page to really get that content out. So I'm slowly pushing it. But we were able to kind of just really focus on how can we stay connected, because I think that was, the biggest thing is, kids are learning remotely. They needed something. And so we kind of put together a little, at camp, it's funny because my coaches all tell me, I'm big on, listen, we had Easton is a great partner of ours. So we have all the awesome pop-up nets, all the gear from Easton. But I always quickly remind them, like, you don't always need the best gear. You can roll up a pair of socks and, before you go to bed, throw it against the door. It's not going to hurt anything, and kind of get a little bit of work in, right? Because the reality is, you got to put in the effort and the time, but you got to make it fun. And it doesn't always have to be 1,000 hours of craziness. And so turns out, all right, we got to stay at home. It's still cold and snow on the ground. So I said, all right, well, let me just kind of let's dip in the sock drawer and let's see all the great things you can do with a rolled up pair of socks. So we kind of created a sock drawer series where, it was really raw, which was great because everything we do here, it's like, okay, they have the 4K cameras, production is really important. And I'm always pushing them like, guys, I can't wait 3 weeks to get something out. Like this thing right here is probably as good as, anything. Can I just film this? And so I got them, because obviously we're really strapped now. So got them to kind of say, hey, I'll film something. I'm using my kids. And so I think that's important, because certainly, yes, you guys obviously put together, your vlog and the different things, and you want it to look all, professional. That's really important in some instances. But I think, nowadays, a lot of people appreciate just getting down in the basement barefoot and involving your kids and kind of seeing it raw and real time. And so we got a lot of great feedback there, because I think that just, reinforces being creative with things and then ultimately having fun. So yeah, we had to pivot a little bit. And, fingers crossed as we plan for a normal 2021. But I think like anyone, it's nice to, and then again, like I've always done, it's like, all right, well, what is everyone else doing? Because I mean, there's certainly things that you can spend time and create, from scratch, but, the best is, the best borrow and steal. And so I think now that's what a lot of people are doing. So if for some unfortunate reason we had to, kind of have a similar path, I think everyone will be a little more equipped.
I think you're right with creativity, and sometimes we're a bit reluctant to say, okay, like I'm gonna do this. Like here up in Canada, like our coach education, we used to do it like face to face, right, in person. Now we had to go virtual, but our clinics are 4 hours. Virtual is a bit long, and so we had to adapt for sure. But we learned a lot. We learned that some of it would maybe stay as online delivery in the future. So maybe it's already 45. It's been 45 minutes already. So let's, it's crazy. Eh? So let's go with my, depending on your answer, my last questions is, So you've been with the Indians for some years now. If you had to share your key learnings to people watching tonight, as far as what you've tried, what worked, what didn't work. Sometimes we're good and we're all excited to share our successes, but sometimes it's not a bad thing to share some of the roadblocks we've had, some of the failures sometimes we've had, because that makes us better as individual, as organization also. So is there any key learnings you'd like to share with people watching tonight?
I think being a department of one and, having some limited resources, and I didn't really know it at the time because I'm just like hair on fire, like, all right, I'm just going to do this. And, looking back, sometimes you don't have the time to, go through the whole process and planning and ask, have these meetings, internal stakeholders, external. I think bigger picture strategic planning that is necessary. And so I think a lot of times just, that trial and error, like get some action, do, and then see, do and then assess. I think that's been the biggest thing for me where, I have a tendency to overthink. And I think even just running something as simple as a camp and things don't always go as planned, and to just be able to, adapt on the fly and switch and just, okay, let's try this. And so I think that's the biggest thing, commit 100%. And then from there, then you assess, right? What happened? What did I want to happen? What would I do different, if anything? And then you do it differently. So I think, having kind of that, I guess, internal review process, self-awareness, self-assessment, has been something that I've kind of always have, but how to adapt it to, now as you switch to the coaching side, and then really, the managing side. And I think that's the last thing, because, my title is a manager. Essentially, I'm running it, right? So I know titles are titles, but, any other time of the year outside of the summer, I'm not managing anyone but myself. And so, again, another downside to not running programming was, having 10 coaches to really oversee and lead and oversee their development as coaches. Because our coaches that we hire are either still playing in college or they're teachers that, love the game. And so, that part of my growth in just being able to lead and guide them, where, again, I wanted it to be my way. And I probably early on, there was not any flexibility in just trusting and letting them do it, and might not have been perfect or how I would have done it, but in the end. So I think from that standpoint, in just leading and managing, that's been the biggest growth, where I wouldn't even say the first couple of years. It's been 7. And I think if you ask my coaches, were some, a couple have been with me for, 5-6 years, I really, that was, as you self-assess personally, where can I get better? That was one area where, as I roam around, a full day of camp that has different stations that are, all the fundamentals, and we put GoPros on every one of the coaches. And so that was a big part of, being able to just trust and say, oh, hey, they can do it. Afterwards, we'll assess. Hey, I liked how you did that. Maybe next time think. And so, just like playing, my last 2 years playing, when I really had a mental framework, other than just thinking positive, setting goals, I really had a mental framework where I went and saw the director of mental training for the St. Louis Cardinals. So another book you mentioned, books, 10-Minute Toughness was the book, and found it at Barnes & Noble, read it, and then ended up reaching out to, Jason Selk. And so my last 2 years playing, I always felt like the mental side is what got me to the highest level, but at the same time, it's also what got in my way a lot of times. And so my last 2 years playing, having this framework, having this, you know, having this little, you know, program to kind of tackle, you know, my mental process was huge, because it allowed me to just, you know, trust, relax, and then ultimately enjoy it a little more and not be so, you know, fatigued. So, you know, that's where these last 2 years, just being able to roam, it's been, you know, instead of being crazy and, oh my gosh, it was like deep breath, and the summer sure flew by a little faster, and, you know, you had a tendency to remember a lot more of those experiences. So I know there was a lot there, but, you know, hopefully those are some good, you know, little bites and takeaways.
For sure. And I'm really glad you mentioned like assessment after everything that we do, whether you're running a league or a camp or whatever it is. I think at the end of the day, when you do self-reflection and then you do an assessment of how it went, the goods and the bad, and sometimes the ugly, it makes the difference between someone with 25 years of experience and someone with 25 times the same year of experience. And I think it's really, really important, because I've came across people saying, you know, I can't learn anything new. I got 25 years of experience. But, you know, when you dig a little bit, it looks more than 25 times the same year because of experience, because they've made the same mistakes all over again. And another thing you mentioned also on that same line of assessment, and you probably feel it also yourself, you said that you're a one-man department. And sometimes when you're the leader of a team, of a group, you know, you're in charge of giving feedback to your athletes, to the other coaches, to the team personnel and everything. But at the end of the day, there's nobody that takes care of you, that gives you feedback, that makes you feedback so you can become better, right? So for people watching tonight, when you're trying to support your coaches, I think it's going to be important for the next generation of our game, next generation of our coaches, to surround them with people who will give your head coaches feedback. It's highly popular in Europe in many sports. It starts to come here. They're called learning coaches, and hopefully they come fast enough here, because we need them badly here in Canada, and I think in North America.
And that was a big part of like Mark Bennett and his system is exactly that feedback, and giving the players, giving the coaches that, you know, giving them permission to either say, stop talking, we get it, or, you know, we didn't like that, we didn't, and so unbelievable. And so I also coach high school baseball, where I went to high school. And so the beauty of all this is, right now I'm you're more of an instructor in camp, directing everything, but then you get to take a lot of these, you know, a lot of these principles, a lot of this, you know, knowledge around coach development skill. And then I get to actually use it as a coach in a team environment, which is a whole different dynamic. And so, I can't tell you, just there in being able to take and do a hot review and then a cold review, but then giving, you know, players and coaches permission to, you know, just to give you feedback. And I tell you what, like, it was, you know, they gave you feedback, and the reality is you got to understand, hey, I'm just trying to help you get better, right? And then the feedback from there is maybe you communicated that, maybe you can communicate that a little better, but, you know, players are doing it to players. And so when you give that permission, man, it's been unbelievable. So yeah, I completely agree. Awesome. And that's where with the Indians, Doug Lemov, who is more of an educator, so Teach Like a Champion, is his book, but it's the same concept we're talking about is, you know, teaching the teacher. You know, he's collaborated with the Indians, and his books, again, were kind of great because they have the little techniques
CD.
and different, the
Yeah.
CD and the different techniques. And I almost became a teacher because I'm like, well, I have this resource. This kind of gives you all like the skills and tools, and then you just kind of, figure it out. But he's been another great, and filming yourself and getting that feedback. So,
Matt, it's been a great hour. If we were in person, usually what we do is that we like to give a gift to our speaker. But since we're not in person,
oh, that's right.
I think we sent you something, right?
You did. This is like it was like Christmas when you're my mom or grandma growing up sends the big box and it's like sits there for 2 weeks. So I mean, I got to admit, a couple times, I shook it to try to see what it was, but I'm going to hopefully not slice my finger off and open this up.
So as a token of appreciation from Baseball Quebec, so we want to thank you for spending some time with us tonight and sharing your experience, sharing your best practice, your ideas, your influence, your book titles, and everything that you shared with us tonight. And hopefully you're going to enjoy the little gift that you got from Baseball Quebec. So let's see what you got.
Hey, all right. Let's see. All right. So we got the nice. We got the nice lid. That's awesome. I love that logo. And then nice.
Awesome.
Poll.
Yeah, 50th anniversary of the association.
For sure. I will certainly rock this with pride. And again, I can't thank you guys enough. I'm honored. Shoot, I can't imagine the other panelists, and I know my story or expertise may not be those, but hopefully everyone listening, we're able to like all these. I think it's always are there one or two little things that you can kind of take back and implement, whether or not it's your coaching or shoot, everything we're talking about now, being a parent, it all applies, to being a parent or even just being a great teammate. So, my hope is that, you guys were able to take one or two things. And again, I can't thank you enough, Andre. I mean, you guys have been so open and obviously been a real inspiration in just how, again, kind of being a one-man show, and obviously collaborating with everyone, but really having a blank canvas. And I think that was a great part about what coming in, I had a blank canvas to kind of grow it and put together, how I wanted. And so, the things you guys are doing have been really, really great.
Hey, we have time for a question, if you don't mind.
For sure.
There's a question there in the Q&A, and the question is, in your opinion, if MLB was coming back to Montreal, which we never know, what do you think would be the impact on amateur baseball in the province or in the country?
Well, I mean, I think TJ Burton, a former teammate of mine, he kind of runs, he runs with the Blue Jays, and I think the challenge for them is they got to cover the whole, country as the only major league team. So I think it only helps because, the best part about what I get to do in having this Block C, it carries a lot of weight. So I think in just having another major league team to again, inspire kids to just either dream big, but then another opportunity to, some of my best memories, my dad passed away 6 or 7 years ago now, literally right before I got this job coming back. And so, my favorite memories are growing up, going to Indians games with him. And so, as much as it's about inspiring, girls and boys and looking up to major league players. I mean, my favorites were, Cal Ripken Jr., Omar Vizquel. And so, when it was back, I got to play against the Expos, which was great because by far, I used to collect all the hats, the Expos hat of all the, the fitted hats growing up is the sweetest logo. So I don't know if the logo and everything comes back, but you definitely get it rocking with a lot of people. But just for them to, all the great players, you know, that they get a chance to kind of look up, emulate. When you talk about development, I know we're getting off track. For me, my, you know, imitation when you first start out, to me, is the best teacher. So, you know, they won't have Vladimir Guerrero, you know, to emulate, you know, but they'll have someone, you know, who's kind of right there in their region that they can kind of look up to. You know, and then the reality is that you're seeing a lot. Major league guys have great platforms, and there's some of them who are using it, you know, in a positive manner and for good. And I think that's kind of, you know, the nice benefit of social media and players really getting to kind of, you know, have a little bit more of an impact on, you know, on everyone. So yeah, I'd love to see it. I almost got to play there. I was a week before getting called up. And supposedly in Montreal, the story. So Carlos Baerga was one of my teammates, and he's an unbelievable drummer. And so supposedly in the visiting side somewhere in Montreal, there was like a drum set, and you know, he was a bench, you know, he was a bench guy, you know, a role player, and like someone went to go find him to pinch hit, and he was just like wailing away on some drum set in Montreal. But I heard unbelievable things about it. I'm sad I missed that trip.
Yeah. Well, as you know, we could talk forever, you and I.
I know it. Hopefully I talk slow enough. I know you gave me the cue to.
Yeah. For the translator.
Hopefully that. Yeah. I got the money.
Survived. Hopefully it survived. Yeah. So I want to thank you on behalf of Baseball Quebec for accepting the invitation, and I'm sure we're going to have other opportunities to share and to discuss and converse about different things. Let me, just before we sign off,
hopefully in person, right? Hopefully in person.
Yeah, hopefully in person. Let me switch to French for a second here. Donc j'espère que vous avez apprécié la soirée, tout le monde. On a un rendez-vous demain, hein? Donc, à tous les soirs cette semaine. Donc, demain, le développement des compétences de vie à travers le sport. On a un invité de marque demain. Donc, on parle des champions du monde ici de soccer, le sport le plus populaire au monde. Donc, le responsable technique de la direction technique nationale, la Fédération française de soccer football, qui appelle là-bas. Donc, Ludovic qui est avec nous demain, qui va nous parler justement des compétences de vie qui sont vraiment imprégnées dans leur programme sportif. Donc, c'est une invitation à tout le monde. Soyez là, vous allez voir les choses qu'ils font là-bas. Vous allez vous rendre compte qu'on est loin derrière, mais que c'est possible de les rattraper également avec des objectifs qu'on peut se formuler. Nat, thanks again for everything. Hope everyone enjoyed the presentation tonight. And you're all welcome to join again tomorrow for the French Soccer Federation discussion. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.